Welcome to another episode, everyone. Tiny Bountry from Inglewood Family Bloods is a rider, a crash-out artist at times. Indeed, I was just in the penitentiary with him in Centinela State Prison, where I paroled from in April of 2022, 3 years and 8 months ago. Me and Tiny Bountry are pretty cool. That's my guy. In fact, he was just recently stabbed in prison. I may not get into that today. But here, let's find out what Tiny Bountry was getting into on the street before he went to prison. Allegedly. This comes from Warren Cali, and he does quite a few videos on these wars in Cali. Maybe I get into something and clear a few of these things up, even though I'm not here to correct his channel. Let him run his content.
Welcome back to another episode of Warren Cali. In this episode, I will detail the story of Tiny Bountry from the Inglewood Family Bloods. The Inglewood families originated in the 70s as the Chain Gang and were original rivals of the Westside Crips. With them later becoming Bloods, they would become rivals of several Crip gangs that became offshoots of the Westside Crips, like several gangs affiliating with the neighborhood Crips, especially hoods like the Rolling 60s, the Rolling 90s, and the Rolling 100 Crips, among other Crip gangs. The wars the Inglewood families have had with Crips, especially the neighborhood Crips, have contributed to countless of deaths and violence in the last 50 years, putting many people to lose their lives to their war. The Inglewood families are the largest gang in Inglewood, and their cliques would include 77, the 80s, 9 Deuce, and 9-4, and Tiny Bountry would come from 7-7. Tiny Bountry grew up in a two-parent home with a mother and a stepfather. He had a man in his home, which a lot of young men growing up in the hood didn't have. But even though his stepfather set a good example by being a step-up man and taking care of his family, Bountry took guidance from a lot of his peers and from the gang members he knew in Inglewood. He was fascinated with the streets and that life he seen around him. All his friends gangbanged or had family in gangs, and he just wanted to be accepted. It started off small, with ditching school, smoking, and hanging out with gang members, until it was time to officially get put on. And after that day in his life, he was never the same. Everything he learned and seen from his...
Well, of course, that's the story of most gang members, if not all. Our environment, how we grew up, where we grew up, the choices that we made, the stuff that we were directed and guided into by our elders. And if we didn't have a two-parent household, chances are we're going to come subject to our environment, to those deadly streets. This is age old. You are indeed a product of your environment. You can get out of there, but you have to get out of there. If not, you will become subject and a product of that environment.
Family went out the window. Tiny Bountry gained a fierce and respected reputation in his early teenage years, known for being with the gunplay and active in the streets. The crowd he was running with from the Inglewood families were known shooters in the early 2000s, and they even started calling themselves CMT, which meant Crenshaw and Manchester Terrorists, meaning they were raising hell from out their section. People like Munchie B were even a part of this crew, and we already know Munchie B had a well-known reputation for being active. But with all the hell that Tiny Bountry was raising, this will all lead to his eventual downfall in the streets. At approximately 3 a.m. on March 28, 2004, someone robbed and killed a pimp named Terrence. Terrence was with a group of men in a parking lot outside of a laundromat. Most of the men were pimps, who frequently carried large sums of money. Tiny Bountry, Laz, and another person referred to as D approached the group. Bountry, Laz, and D said, "Oh, y'all pimping and y'all got money?" And one of them stood near a Cadillac owned by a man named Lannon. One of them attempted to reach into Terrence's pockets. Terrence struggled with one of them, who attempted to reach in his pockets, but they had a gun. Terrence tried to flee, and he was fatally shot. Many stated that Tiny Bountry was the shooter, off his characteristics. Tiny Bountry was said to be around 5'8" or 5'9", and approximately 140 pounds to 150. He even had his hair braided. In March of 2004, Little Bountry was said to be actually 5'9" and weighed 150 pounds and had braids in his hair. Bountry's fingerprints were even on Lennon's Cadillac. A woman named Shavante, who was an accomplice, later pled guilty. She later testified
Don't ask me how tall Tiny Bountry is, because I don't know. None of my business.
that she drove Bountry and Laz to a laundromat parking lot, and Dee followed in a car behind them. Either Bountry or Laz told Shavante to stop there. Shavante stopped to allow Bountry and Laz to get out the car, but she never turned off the engine. Before they exited the car, either one of them said, "We're going to get these motherfuckers." She saw that Bountry had a gun. A few minutes after Bountry and Laz left Shavante's car, she heard gunshots. Shortly after, both Bountry and Laz ran back to her car. She drove Bountry and Laz to her home. Shavante initially testified that after they arrived at her home, that Laz said somebody had grabbed Bountry's arm, and this resulted into somebody getting shot. Casings found in the parking lot near the laundromat matched the gun that Shavante saw Bountry holding, which was later recovered from her house. On July 6, 2004, someone shot and killed a man named LaShawn. LaShawn's then girlfriend Ebony and a man named Anthony were present at the shooting, which occurred in Inglewood. The shooting occurred outside of Ebony's friend Danielle's house. Prior to shooting LaShawn, the shooter made a diss to Crips. The shooter then pointed the gun at LaShawn and fired twice. At trial, both Ebony and Anthony identified Bountry as the shooter. Prior to trial, Anthony had identified Bountry from a photo line.
So they ain't got Bountry. So this is the second unaliving. This is the second killing that they naming Bountry. So obviously they had him named for the first one, but he was still on the street to be involved in the second one, allegedly. And this is how it goes, right? They all at trial testifying against him. This is your life in the street. This is gang banging today, for sure. Hell, this was 20 years ago, 2004, and all that. This is gang banging in the last 30 years. You do something, you're going to jail, and the motherfucker come get on the stand on you. Your homeboys, the people you did it with, your homegirl, whoever, everybody. And then be welcome back to the hood.
And he indicated he was 75% sure that it was Bountry. Ebony also identified Bountry as the shooter multiple times, but her story was not always consistent. Ebony testified the day after the shooting. She overheard Bountry tell Danielle, "Don't mention anything about what happened last night." When he was picked up and questioned, Tiny Bountry admitted that he was a member of the Inglewood families. He denied shooting LaShawn and Terrence. He claimed that he was at a birthday party at his ex-girlfriend's house the night LaShawn was shot. He further said D shot at one of the members of the group. Ebony further testified the day after the shooting. She told detectives that TB was the shooter. She identified him in a lineup at trial. Prior to trial, when defense counsels interviewed Ebony, she denied seeing a shooter. That interview took place after Tiny Bountry's aunt found Ebony working on the street as a prostitute. She offered to help her. Bountry's aunt bought Ebony dinner and asked Ebony for her assistance. His aunt asked Ebony to allow Bountry's defense to interview her. Ebony consented, and they did the interview. Ebony assumed that Tiny Bountry's aunt wanted her to say that he didn't shoot anybody. In a video recorded interview played for the jury, Ebony told defense counsels she was not able to see the person who shot LaShawn because it was too dark. She also stated that she was too focused on the gun and not the actual shooter's face. Ebony denied knowing the identity of the shooter and denied revealing the shooter's identity to detectives. At trial, Ebony testified she changed her story because Bountry's aunt made her feel real comfortable and she told her she would take care of her. His aunt told Ebony that she needed Ebony's help. Ebony felt pressured into changing her story because his...
So supposedly she didn't win paid off a prostitute to change her story or to say that he was not the shooter and this and that. But then eventually she went back and changed her story back there in trial and said, well, yeah, he was the shooter and they just tried to pay me off or take care of me. And this happens all of the time as well. It's just really no way around it other than not getting involved in certain situations that's going to land you in prison for the rest of your life. As I said, I was just talking, I'm just talking about this. You go to prison for your game for the rest of your life, and then you get in there, they just stabbed them. Some blood stabbed them. I'll get into it.
aunt had asked her to help Bountry. Ebony thought the only way to help Bountry was to say he did not commit the crime. Ebony later further testified that the defense counsel told Ebony she would not have to go to court again if she just agreed to do the interview. Ebony testified that the counsel made it seem like lying was a lot easier than telling the truth. She also said that the counsel told her to change her story, and his aunt pressured Ebony to do it. At trial, Bountry was later sentenced to multiple life sentences. He's been in jail for the last 21 years. The streets Bountry once terrorized and the people he tried to kill are some of the same people he is now in prison with and friends with. Now he realizes the streets only bring death and jail, and is an endless cycle of trauma that never ends. Jail doesn't just take your freedom, it rewires your mind. It's a world where time slows down, but your thoughts race. You start off angry, frustrated, maybe even in denial. But as the days turn into months, something in you starts to shift. You start to see life from the outside looking in. You realize how much noise the world carries. Distractions, fake people, unnecessary energy. And in jail, there's none of that. It's quiet enough to hear your own thoughts, and that's where the real battle begins. You replay everything, the choices, the loyalty that wasn't returned, the moments that led you there. You start to see who really solid, who disappeared, and the things that used to impress you don't matter no more. It's the little things that matter the most. A letter, a call, and a thought of freedom. Jail teaches you two things: who you really are when the world's not watching, and how strong your mind has to be to survive. It's just not punishment, it's transformation. And whether it breaks you or builds you, depends on what you choose to learn from the silence. What you did on the streets can lead to you going to prison for life. And them same people you was trying to victimize on the streets can be the same people you become friends with behind bars. And that makes you think, was it really worth it? This will conclude this episode.
No, not really worth it. Never is. So Tiny Bountry has multiple life sentences. As you just heard, he's been in there for 2 decades now. This transpired in 2004. It's 21 years he's been in there. They were all pointing a finger at him, all telling at him in every situation. This is how it goes now. It's not worth it. And as I said, he just went through some shit there in the penitentiary. You know, you ride for your homies, you die for them, you catch life sentences, putting in work for the hood, and then you go in there and the hood stabs you up, the hood turns on you. Get out of the street. Get out of the street, bro. What's there? There's no fealty. There's no loyalty. There's nothing but death and destruction. If you still there, you're foolish. Stay safe and stay free, people.